Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Loud House Revamped Review series. And this would be the second part of the Simulator Saga, but he's currently out doing some business because he got very upset with me upon finding out the true origin of the delightful children. It is going to be me doing the last part of the Simulator Saga. So without further ado, let's get into the chapters. Chapter 47, or Nature vs. Pollution, is a crossover with Fern Gully, an obscure film about saving the environment, with the villain song being performed by Tim Curry, or aka Professor Calamus's voice actor and Pennywise. Yeah, that's where I know Tim Curry from. Tim Curry is also the voice of the main villain. That's all I know about the film. So what does this have to do with the Loud House Revamped? This is Lainey's chapter, or her time in the spotlight during this saga. Now let's get into the chapter. The chapter begins with Lainey in the simulator ready to do a virtual exercise with JD, Viri, and Lisa in the control room. The simulator then activates and Lainey finds herself in a rainforest. Lainey then says that she knows the rainforest from Fern Gully, which is one of her favorite movies. How possible is it for a kid like her to watch a movie like that? Almost impossible, but I can believe that she could have watched clips online or had the movie at the house. Anyway, Lainey walks around the rainforest until she sees a tiny blue light coming towards her. She holds out her hand, with the light landing, revealing it to be a fairy named Krista. Lainey then is surprised at this and blurts out her name. This obviously confuses Krista, and Lainey, not wanting to be accused of spying on the fairies, says she guessed. Krista should be suspicious, but moves on with her life by asking if Lainey is a human. Lainey says yes, and adds that she has plant powers. She holds out her hand and creates tiny blades of grass that she throws on the ground, which become full-grown trees. Krista is amazed by this, with Lainey agreeing. She asks for Lainey's name, which Lainey tells her what it is. Krista tells Lainey it is a pleasure to meet her and asks if she's been to Fern Gully. Lainey says that this is her first time in Fern Gully, and Krista tells her that she was going to see the canopy above. Lainey says, "Let's go together." No, you two just met a few seconds ago. And besides, there are a lot of critters up there. Krista and Lainey fly through and above the canopy to see the rainforest stretching on for miles, also seeing smoke near a mountain. Lainey points out that the mountain is Mount Warning, with her realizing Fern Gully is in Australia. Krista, not knowing about continents, asks what Australia is. Lainey explains it is where they are now, adding that the smoke isn't supposed to be there. Krista, also not knowing about smoke, asks about what it is, with Lainey explaining that it is bad air that comes from different things. Krista asks for an example, and Lainey says there are lots of things humans have built, adding the smoke could come from a fire. Krista says, "Fire?" with Lainey agreeing, and telling the former that they'll check out where the fire came from. Krista agrees with this, and flies with Lainey to the outskirts of the rainforest, and then into a grassland. Lainey and Krista see the smoke up ahead, going into a grove of trees with red X's on them. Then Lainey swipes one of these X's with her finger, saying it is red paint. Krista asks about what paint is, and Lainey explains. Lainey and Krista see red X's on most of the trees, but the former knows what is going on. Lainey says that the grassland is the cutting area, with Krista asking what queer cutting is. Lainey explains, and then Krista says, "That's terrible." Lainey agrees, saying that queer cutting is one of the biggest ecological disasters on the planet. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Krista asks about what she and Lainey can do, but Lainey says that the trees have been there for a while. Lainey then puts her hand on a tree which then glows neon red. She goes on to say that the trees are in pain not only from pollution, but the dust of time. What the hell is the dust of time mean? Does it mean that the trees are rotting from the inside because of the paint? Or does it mean with age, pain becomes a lot more frequent? Your guess is good as mine. Krista then asks again about what they can do, and Lainey comes up with a solution to just grow new trees with her plant powers. However, Lainey doesn't know if she has tried that before. You offered an easy solution and don't know how to do it? Wow, this writing is fucking awful. Before they can implement their solution, a tall blonde-haired character with a blue shirt and blue jeans appears, wondering what the hell Lainey and Krista are doing at his job site. Krista hides in Lainey's scarf to avoid being seen, as Lainey introduces herself and apologizes for being at his job site. Lainey adds that she thought she saw smoke coming from the place, assuming it was a fire burning. The blonde-haired character says there's no fire, and then introduces himself as Zach. Lainey introduces himself, saying it is a pleasure to meet him, and asks what he and his co-workers are cutting down the trees for. Zach says that it is for a logging company as part of a summer job he got. Lainey reiterates about being concerned about a fire burning, with Zach saying no problem. What? That doesn't even make sense. Lainey then sees a tree about to fall on Zach, with Lainey calling out to him. Krista, however, acts fast, drinking Zach to her size, knocking him out. Lainey, in the meanwhile, jumps out of the way and grabs Zach and Krista, flying them back to Fern Gully. Lainey asks Krista if she's alright, and Krista says that she's fine. The three of them arrive back in Fern Gully, and Zach wakes up in Krista's bedroom. Zach asks what happened, and Lainey tells Zach that Krista unintentionally shrank him. Zach gets confused and stares at Lainey, who is still tall, seeing she's right. He has a panic attack, rightfully so, and Lainey reiterates what she just said, with Krista agreeing. Lainey explains to Zach that the shrinking was unintentional, but a tree was about to crush him. Zach, I think, would be still panicking about returning back to normal and not immediately accepting this, because that is what happens in real life. But this is a movie, or a chapter in a fanfic, so who cares at this point? Krista then says yes to Lainey's retelling of events and adds that Maggie Loon, a witch type of fairy, can help Zach get back to normal. Lainey agrees with this, and the three of them go to find Maggie Loon, but they find out she is not home, so they wait. Meanwhile, the chapter describes Hexus, a spirit of pollution, the main villain of Fern Gully, becoming free from his prison due to the machine destroying it. He then takes control of the machine, leading it to Fern Gully. The next day, Zach is still shrunk because I guess Maggie can't do anything. Lainey then feels a disturbance and tells Krista and Zach about it. Krista asks about what the disturbance is, with Lainey saying she doesn't know. What are use of your plant powers if you can't tell already? Jesus Christ. Zach and Lainey see a tree losing leaves, along with the water turning brown. The latter talks about oil in that machine coming. How does Lainey know about that? Oh right, she watched the movie, I forgot. Anyway, Zach says the machine is the leveler, and Lainey says she can feel the machine getting closer, with her adding that they should tell everyone. After Lainey, Zach, and Krista gather and tell everyone of the situation, in the middle of town, Maggie appears. She says that the humans have fled Hexus, and then Lainey reacts to this with shock. You watched the movie! You should know about this! Lainey tells Maggie to let her help out with everyone, and Maggie says that she could, adding to gather everyone in a circle. Lainey, Krista, and Zach lead the fairies to Maggie's tree, where Maggie tells Lainey to sit in the center of the tree and meditate. Lainey says okay and does so, with Maggie having the speech. Honestly, this chapter is a lot better with Maggie doing the speech instead of Lainey. Maggie does a typical speech about forgetting her roots and picks up a seed from a fig pod, saying to remember that all creation exists within the seed. This seed glows, with a choir singing and a rumble of thunder being heard. All the trees over the rainforest start glowing, and green energy from all over pours into Maggie's tree. This green energy goes straight into Maggie as her tree twists and closes. Lainey, meanwhile, is in a total state of concentration as this is happening, and Krista flies over to Maggie. Maggie gives Krista some encouragement while she tells Lainey to protect Krista and her family with her life. Krista cries at this, and Maggie tells her that she loves her, adding she will always be with her. Maggie then turns to the blue energy sparkles, saying to everyone that they all have a power and grows when it is shared. She also tells Krista to remember what she has learned. Wow. Life lessons, people. Maggie then disperses to everyone with the last of her form landing on Lainey's forehead. This causes a green leaf to appear in the middle with Lainey still meditating, saying she understands. Zack turns full environmentalist and swears to protect and conserve the planet. The tree then unwinds as Krista is still mourning Maggie. Lainey gets up from meditating with machinery wiring being heard, saying the leveler is here. The leveler then appears and everyone sees Hexus on top of it, who proclaims he's back while laughing evilly. Krista says Hexus' name, and Lainey stands in front of the leveler. Ralph and Tony, Zack's supervisors, wonder what the hell a little girl is doing in the front of the machine to begin with. However, Lainey uses her powers to make the leveler immobile, and uses this to say that her powers have gotten stronger. Tony and Ralph don't know they aren't moving, but Hexus jump scares them by talking to them through the windshield. As a result, Tony and Ralph get out of the leveler, but Lainey forms vines to get them down safely. Lainey, however, feels a pain in her back and sees wings made of flower petals sprout from her back. Lainey is surprised at this and says that she will have to find out later. She already has flight, so there's no point with her having angel wings whatsoever. This is just like Starfire getting angel wings, but even more pointless. Lainey flies up to the leveler and gets in through the door, going for the ignition key. She tells Hexus that his spree of destruction is over and turns off the leveler and leaves it. This causes Hexus to get weaker, and he gets confused on where the energy went. He disintegrates as Lainey gets back on the ground. However, there is an earthquake, and Hexus arises from the leveler in his true form, a giant burning skeleton creature made of sludge and oil. Lainey says the obvious, along with her saying that Hexus doesn't know when to quit. Lainey, I've said this before, you watched the movie, you should know this, he's the villain of the movie, so relax. Anyway, Krista sacrifices herself by taking a seed into Hexus' mouth, which causes plants to start growing out of him. Lainey says that she understands what Krista is doing, and then Lainey and the other fairies follow Krista's lead by throwing seeds at Hexus. This causes Hexus to become a tree once again, now imprisoned and sealed away. All the characters think that Krista is dead, but lo and behold, a flower blossoms, and she turns out to be okay. Krista and Zack hug, as Krista says that all the fairies, her and Zack, saved Ferngully from being harmed by Hexus. However, Zack reminds her that humans still can harm the environment and decides to go back. Krista says to him that a part of him will always stay in Ferngully, giving him a seed, which glows in his hand. Krista flies up to Lainey as Lainey holds out her hands. She tells Lainey how awesome she was, that they all did it together. Zack leaves, Krista undoes the shrinkage, and Zack plants the seed. Lainey touches the ground with her hand, turning neon blue, and the seed starts growing, replenishing the entire rainforest. That is a bad message for environmentalism. I'm just saying. The chapter then describes that Zack, Tony, and Ralph change their ways. Lainey then asks Krista if she wants to live at the Loud House, adding that she knows how important Ferngully is to her. She adds that Krista holds a special place in her heart. Wow, that is manipulative. Instead of Krista telling Lainey no and saying that she has responsibilities and duties to do in Ferngully, Krista says yes. Her friend Pips asks her why. Good question. Krista explains that her and Lainey are close, and she wants to learn more about humans in their world. Lainey gives an emotional goodbye, and Pips and Krista say goodbye to each other. Krista and Lainey then leave through a dimensional vortex, ending the exercise. The chapter ends with JD saying to Lainey that she was awesome. In JD's notes, he explains that Ferngully was one of his first childhood movies, along with saying how he loved that Batty was played by Robin Williams. I knew something was missing. He also apologizes for not getting the character in the story. He also figured that Lainey and the plant powers would be perfect for it. Well, he's not wrong about that. Also in the notes, he says that all of Robin Williams' movies were awesome and adds that it is a shame that he died. I wouldn't say all of his movies were good. Just saying. JD puts a rest in peace at the end of the notes to be respectful, I guess? Okay, what did I think of this chapter? This chapter was mediocre because of the horrible message that you could just plant a seed and the forest will return to normal. That was very, very stupid. Also, there is no build up to Hexus in the chapter whatsoever. We didn't even get Toxic Love, for God's sake, because that is one of the only things I remember from Ferngully at all. The villain Hexus is defeated in one gesture, which I'm pretty sure is just like that in the movie itself. Lainey says obvious things that are clearly obvious, and if you take out those lines, the chapter won't change at all. The movie didn't need to be there, but I like the inclusion. The characters were somewhat out of character for the chapter and trusted Lainey way too quickly. If I were to rewrite this specific chapter, it would take place after the original so as to not tarnish it that much. Maybe have Hexus return or have an original villain connected to Ferngully. Also, I would have Krista stay because of the responsibilities and duties to keep it safe. Overall, mediocre chapter and an overpowered Mary Sue. Welcome to the Star Wars chapter, Chapter 48, The Jedi Resurrection. This chapter, oh boy, this chapter. This is where the fun doesn't begin, my friends. This is where JD doesn't only disrespect the source material, he disrespects the story of this franchise. He ruins it in a way that makes it unrecognizable. So let's begin the chapter. JD is in the simulator doing an exercise while Varee, Jesse, Linka, Lily, Lainey, Krista, and Lisa are in the control room. The simulator activates and ends up with JD on the planet Naboo during episode 1. He runs through Queen Amidala's palace, seeing Qui-Gon and a young Obi-Wan fighting Darth Maul. Qui-Gon is described fighting alone with Darth Maul as the young Obi-Wan is watching behind a laser barrier. Just as Darth Maul is to fatally wound Qui-Gon, JD swoops in, force-pushing Darth Maul into a nearby wall. JD acts as if he can join a fight, igniting his lightsaber and firing Force Lightning at Darth Maul, electrocuting him. Qui-Gon acts as if JD can use Force Lightning, but you just saw him do it, Qui-Gon, so there's no question to be asked. Anyway, JD says yes, with Qui-Gon asking who he is. JD introduces himself as a Grey Jedi from Earth. This shocks Qui-Gon and the young Obi-Wan, with the former saying no Grey Jedi has existed in 4,000 years. JD then says, not until now. Wow, way to piss off the Jedi, JD. The young Obi-Wan then runs the Qui-Gon after the laser barrier temporarily deactivates, igniting his blue lightsaber. The young Obi-Wan appreciates JD for arriving, with him saying it is no problem. Darth Maul gets up and continues fighting, but gets pushed down a shaft due to JD shooting more Force Lightning. However, in the shuffle, Darth Maul's lightsaber gets left behind on the floor, leading to JD grabbing and claiming it as a trophy. At this point, the young Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon should be suspicious of this and ask what he is doing, but unfortunately that does not happen. Instead, they do nothing. JD tells Qui-Gon about Anakin being the chosen one and to make sure he doesn't fall to Darth Sidious or lose himself to the dark side. JD, you forgot one crucial detail. His civilian name, Sheev Palpatine. That way, the two Jedi know who they are going after, but no, they don't ask for specifics. Qui-Gon thanks JD instead, with JD telling him that he will meet both of them again in the future. The simulator then fast forwards to the climax of episode 2 on the planet Geonosis in the battle arena. JD sees Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme from the halls tie the post about the die to alien beast. He says, "Oh no! You're not Princess Peach. Stop doing that." JD then jumps down, igniting his lightsaber, and fires lightning at the Viceroy, instantly killing him. And nothing of value was lost. He also sees Count Dooku on the balcony, who shouldn't have defected at all to the Separatists at this point. Count Dooku notices JD and says that he's heard a lot about him, with JD saying the feeling is mutual. What feeling are you talking about? Makes sense. Please, I would love to see what this feeling is. Count Dooku tells JD he is quite formidable by defeating Darth Maul. JD is impressed by this and says that it is nice to know, adding that the Viceroy paid for his treachery on Naboo. The droids come out and fire at JD, who miraculously deflects all the shots, while numerous Jedi come out and ignite their lightsabers. On the balcony, Mace Windu, who is behind Count Dooku at this point, ignites his purple-bladed lightsaber, holding it to the Count's throat. JD throws his lightsaber, and with the Force, he controls it to cut the ropes that are binding Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme. JD also tames the alien beast, which disappear and become tattoos on his left arm. Okay, that kind of makes sense for the Star Wars universe. The fight continues, and Jango Fett lands on the battleground after using his jetpack. He fights JD, who replaces Mace Windu in the situation, and dies by getting his head slashed off. Count Dooku, meanwhile, gets away with JD hot on his trail after getting all the Jedi out of the arena. JD chases Count Dooku to his backup lair, and JD tells the Count that he will pay for all the Jedi that were killed in the arena. JD heroically fires Force Lightning at Count Dooku, blasting him into a rock wall, with one of the points skewering him all the way through his heart, dying instantly. Well, Clone Wars and the opening of Episode 3 are ruined, along with the ending of Episode 2. JD, being the psycho that he is, up to this point, takes Count Dooku's lightsabers as trophies as Master Yoda arrives in the backup lair. Master Yoda says, "JD Nutson! So rumors are true, I see!" Or he should be saying, "JD Nutson! Anger management! It is time for." JD tells him the rumors are true, as Yoda tells JD that he senses the light and dark sides in him. At this point, if I was Yoda, I would ask JD who specifically is Darth Sidious, so I'm not on a wild goose chase. But no, he doesn't bother. Instead, JD explains he is from the planet Earth. Yoda senses how powerful he is and tells him so, with JD saying he has to stop the Sith at all costs. If JD was seen picking up Count Dooku's lightsabers and taking them as trophies, that would have been a red flag for Yoda. I'm just gonna say this, JD would have gone to Jedi therapy to control his emotions. The simulator then fast forwards to the volcano world of Mustafar without JD telling Yoda who Darth Sidious is. You know what? That is on you, James. This is on you for what happens next. And I'm not talking about your real life persona, I'm talking about the self-insert. JD senses that Anakin is turned evil and warns Ahsoka Tano and Alea Sakura about it with his telepathy. 5 hours later, JD sees Anakin on the landing ports talking to a pregnant Padme. You waited 5 hours in an active volcano world? Wow, that is just dumb. Obi-Wan starts getting off the ship, and Anakin gets enraged at Padme. He says this infamous line from the movie, "You're with him! You brought him to kill me!" Just as Anakin is about to choke his pregnant wife, JD pushes him into a bunch of barrels that come out of nowhere and lands by Padme. JD asks Padme if she's alright, and Padme says she's okay. She then asks her own husband what the hell happened to him. JD and Obi-Wan explain to her that Anakin is now on the dark side. Anakin gets up and says that Obi-Wan, JD, and the Jedi have turned Padme against him, with Obi-Wan telling Anakin, "You have done that yourself!" However, another ship lands and opens, revealing Ahsoka, Leia, Yoda, Qui-Gon, and Mace? Mace, the guy that got thrown out of the window by Palpatine via Force lightning, to his death. Man, he should be dead at this point. Or I'm just gonna guess that he survived because they found out or whatever. I don't fucking know. I'm not gonna fucking justify this shit. Anyway, Leia thanks JD for telling her, with JD saying it is no problem. Ahsoka asks her master what has happened to him, and Anakin says that he has had a change for the better. JD obviously points out that is bullshit, and Anakin gets even angrier, telling the Jedi that they won't take Padme away from him. Yoda says it is too late for that option, and Obi-Wan tells Anakin that he has become the thing he has sworn to destroy. Anakin tells Obi-Wan that he sees for the lies of the Jedi, and doesn't fear the dark side like he does. He then says this, "I have brought peace, freedom, justice, and security to my new empire." JD says something completely cliched, ruining Obi-Wan's response. "Your new empire?" Anakin, in his anger, says to not make him kill them all. "Well, Anakin, that's kind of too late for what you did." Obi-Wan tells Anakin that his allegiance is to the Republic and democracy. JD tells Anakin Palpatine has lied to him and that he'll make sure that Palpatine pays for his crimes. I'm not gonna say anything until the end, so we're fine. Anakin says that he won't let them, with JD offering to face Anakin. But Obi-Wan logically would say no, saying it was his and Qui-Gon's responsibility to teach Anakin. Of course, that isn't what happens here, but I would love to dream. Obi-Wan lets JD face Anakin, with JD saying that a Sith deals in absolutes and does what he must. Anakin tells JD he will try, leading to JD and Anakin both igniting their lightsabers, getting into a tense lightsaber fight. And this reminds me of Pooh's Adventures all too familiarly. It does. I know familiarly is not a word, but it's a word. The fight is similar to Anakin's and Obi-Wan's fight from episode 3, except JD's overpowered abilities ruin it for everybody else. While JD and Anakin stop on their lava platform and a robot's head respectively, they bicker back and forth about who's right, ending with JD saying, "Then you are lost." They fight some more on the lava platform and the robot's head until JD jumps towards the land by the lava river as Anakin tries to slash him. JD then says, "It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground." Anakin responds with, "You underestimate my power." JD tells Anakin that his overconfidence will be his undoing, and as Anakin jumps over to JD, his legs and left arm are slashed off, like in the movie. This makes Anakin roll down the hill, making him close to the lava river's edge. JD goes on a little rant about Anakin being stupid and tells him Palpatine will find a replacement eventually. 1, understatement of the fucking year. 2, he was gonna get manipulated either way. Okay, that's what the story does. Okay? Anakin, in character, refuses to believe him, saying to JD that he hates him. JD says that Anakin can hate him all he wants, but it is the truth. Anakin starts to realize that maybe JD is right, but gets his lava ignited by the lava. JD uses his ice powers on the leg, putting the flame out, and JD picks Anakin up like he's a sack of potatoes. JD apologizes for not letting Anakin die Jedi and not fall further to the dark side, even though he probably should have killed him for extra measure. JD walks over to Padme's ship, and the Jedi, Padme and JD board it. Obi-Wan tells JD that he really did a number on Anakin, and JD knows, saying that Palpatine will pay for his crimes. Nah, I'm not gonna speak about it yet. Anakin starts apologizing for what he's done and cries. Everyone's glad he's back to the light, and Anakin thanks JD for saving him. JD shakes Anakin's burnt hand as a sign of friendship. That would hurt. Qui-Gon tells Anakin the rest as Anakin asks where they're going. JD says they're going to Earth to restore the Jedi, with May saying it is a good plan. What? I thought you were gonna go after Palpatine first. Go after him first. Go after him. Go after him. And go to the space hospital first. They have better technology and medicine than Earth's. That way you don't look like someone that has been in the hot tub for too long. A wormhole appears with Padme's ship going into it, and as everyone on the ship arrives on Earth, the simulator ends. The ship lands in the Loud House backyard, and everyone from the ship disembarks. JD finds the perfect place for a new Jedi temple, the abandoned baseball stadium in Detroit. Why in Detroit and not in Royal Woods? Is it because they don't have a stadium or something as big as a stadium? And if they don't, why not have JD's family build one? Build a Jedi temple. It's safer, more legal, because that structure could be unsafe for all you know. Anakin is rushed to the Earth hospital and given new prosthetic legs, with going through rehab and burn treatments that make him look like he came out of a hot tub. As that was happening, Padme gave birth to Luke and Leia. JD meanwhile was with Free and revealed everything to his friends. Lincoln confusingly asks, "So you escaped from the galaxy?" With JD saying that they had to retreat for now until they had the power to destroy Emperor Palpatine. Oh, bullshit! I'm sorry. That is bullshit, and you know it. JD Knudsen. Your self-insert can just get rid of him right then and there, okay? Done. 1-2 step. It's easy. Linka says the obvious again, and JD says yes, but it'll take all the time in the world. The chapter then describes a new Jedi temple being built in place of the abandoned baseball stadium. And right away, a bunch of people and children wanted to become Jedi without being scanned for midichlorians or something. The chapter then ends with the Jedi resurrection being fully underway. Okay. JD's notes are basically that he loves Star Wars and that's it. What did I think of this train wreck of a chapter? Let's begin with JD's complete lack of understanding of the story. The story of Star Wars, specifically during the Skywalker saga, is about Anakin himself. This is supposed to be about how a slave boy from Tatooine becomes one of the most iconic villains in fiction. JD ruins the prequels by inserting himself at the climaxes of all three films. He kills Darth Maul, and he kills Count Dooku without a second thought. He takes their lightsabers as trophies and doesn't even prevent Anakin from turning to the dark side. Okay, that last part was unnecessary, but you get what I'm saying here. JD completely redeems Anakin with no sacrifice, ruining the original trilogy. He also prevents it from happening, which is crucial to Star Wars. Now let's move on to JD warning the Jedi once about Darth Sidious, and not even bothering to reveal his civilian name. I think a simple "it is Palpatine" would do it, but the guy had backup plans, so he would have became Emperor anyway. Essentially, this is a big what if that doesn't even qualify as a what if. Hell, there are what if videos online where it is treated with respect and no JD in sight whatsoever. This chapter is a disrespectful stain on the Star Wars franchise, and a very disrespectful stain to the Loud House as well. One last thing before moving on to the next chapter. Anakin should have died here because not only did he kill adults, he killed younglings, Jedi children. At that point, JD should have given him a mercy kill, but no, he's redeemed and lives. My God. JD Knudsen. Why? Fucking why? Chapter 49, The Cyclone Avenger, revolves around the 1997 Don Bluth film Anastasia, which itself was loosely based on 1917 Russia and the February Revolution. If you don't know about what happened around that time, Russia was in deep shit. And due to politics and poor governance, it got overthrown twice in 1 year. First, the Tsarist government got overthrown in February 1917 because of refusing to exit World War I, leading to Tsar Nicholas II abdicating. Then the transition government got overthrown by the Bolsheviks in October 1917 because of the transition government refusing to exit World War I, leading to the former royal family getting executed. These events led to the creation of the Soviet Union. That is basically what happened at the end of the day. And keep this in mind, because JD says something completely different at the end of the chapter. Now that I told you some history, let's begin the chapter. The chapter begins with Lori in the simulator while JD, Viri, Bobby, Ronnie Ann, Lincoln, Linka, and Lisa are in the control room. The simulator activates and Lori finds herself in the movie Anastasia. The chapter describes that the year is 1917 with the February Revolution underway, adding that luckily the simulator doesn't do time travel. JD, stop lying, because the simulator is not a simulator. It is more like the magic school bus, except Mrs. Frizzle has better self-control than you. My god, this thing needs to be renamed to something else. Oh, I got it! It's gonna be called the Time Machine Teleporter. Anyway, Lori says that she has studied about this and proclaims that she is in Russia during the events of the February Revolution, leading to Tsar Nicholas II's abdication. Lori arrives at the train station where Anastasia is at, Tsar Nicholas II's daughter. Seeing the train is about to leave, she sees Anastasia about to fall onto the tracks and gets a pretty bad memory loss. But Lori spreads her wings and flies towards Anastasia, picking her up. Lori flies back into the air, looking like Anastasia had vanished. Lori asks the former princess if she's alright, and Anastasia says, "Yes, thanks to you." Lori tells her she is welcome and introduces herself. Anastasia then says it is a pleasure and tells Lori that the royal family ran off because of Rasputin. In the movie, it's right, but in real history, not so much. Lori gasps while saying, "Gregory Rasputin? The evil sorcerer?" Anastasia tells Lori that's the guy, and Lori calls Rasputin a demonic freak. I would actually say more of a religious con man than anything. Anastasia agrees with Lori's statement though, and she and Lori both vow to get revenge on Rasputin to destroy him for good. Lori and Anastasia hide in a house near St. Basil's Cathedral until the fighting dies down. Well, that's very dangerous to do because of a revolution going on. That's why the royal family in the film escaped in the first place, James, so they don't die to angry rebels. Lori asks Anastasia how this revolution happened in the first place, and the latter explains it started with her family celebrating 300 years of Romanov rule. Anastasia adds that her grandmother got her a music box, which she shows to Lori. The music box plays Once Upon a December, which Lori says is beautiful, with Anastasia agreeing. You know what, I probably say the same thing. Anyway, Lori says she read a lot about the 300-year celebration of Romanov rule, with Anastasia telling Lori she's right. Lori asks why Rasputin would want to destroy Russia, and Anastasia says that Rasputin was banished for treason, who cast a curse on the royal family. No, that's not what happened in history. Lori, however, comes to the conclusion that Rasputin wants to destroy the Russian royalty, adding that he sold his soul to the devil to gain more power to do so. Anastasia tells Lori yes, also telling her Rasputin fell in a lake, taking something. This something is an evil requiem, a container for Rasputin's soul. Lori says the obvious, with Anastasia agreeing, while adding that it could create basically anything. Lori discusses that Rasputin's life force is bound to the evil Requiem and says that if it were destroyed, Rasputin would die. Anastasia tells her she has a feeling that she's right. Lori calls Rasputin the satanic beast and adds that luckily she knows someone that taught her to purify the Requiem and use it as her own. I don't think you really need that, Lori. Just crush it instead with your foot. The film did the same thing. Nothing would be lost, and also problem solved. Anastasia is shocked at her learning this type of power, and Lori tells her to watch. Lori casts a spell that hits the Requiem, purifying it and extracting Rasputin's soul, making it go back to Rasputin's body. Lori now utilizes the Requiem as an amulet of wind, with Lori saying that it is perfect. She has the powers of the Requiem now, and uses it like a GPS tracker. Meanwhile, at the frozen lake or river, Rasputin crawls out of the water as his soul returns to him. This obviously pisses off Rasputin, who vows to get his revenge on the people who did this. Back in Inner Moscow, Lori and Anastasia are over at the Kremlin, which is abandoned. Lori says the obvious about people wanting the Tsarhood gone, and Anastasia agrees for some reason. Lori also says this: let's see if we can find anything we can use to fight Rasputin. What? Oh. What? That doesn't make sense. So you trapped Rasputin near the Kremlin. Makes sense for the chapter at least. Lori and Anastasia look around, finding a medieval sword from England. Lori asks Anastasia if her family traveled a lot, with Anastasia saying that her dad found a medieval sword while in England. Lori notices it is a Scottish claymore and remarks that it is in nice quality. Well, it kinda is. Lori sheaves it onto her back and also finds an old 18th century Russian flintlock, aka musket. She says that she can use this and puts it in her pocket ready to fight Rasputin. You have superpowers. You don't need that. You don't need that. The doors to the Kremlin burst open, revealing Rasputin. Rasputin angrily looks for Anastasia while asking where she is. However, a bullet is fired from the musket into Rasputin's leg, who screams in pain. Rasputin sees Lori with the musket, which had smoke coming out of it. Lori then says that was for the Romanov family. And Rasputin unlocks his inner bigot by telling Lori if she understands what she has done. Lori responds by saying that his reign of terror is over and that he will pay for his crimes. Rasputin then says, "Not if I kill you first." Okay, that was too cheerful, but you know what I'm saying. Rasputin and Lori unsheathes their swords, getting into a powerful sword fight. Sparks fly, catching some of the Kremlin on fire. Anastasia gets behind Rasputin, stabbing him in the back, while Lori stabs him in the head, instantly killing him. Anastasia is a child, James. She shouldn't be the one doing this, neither should Lori at this point, but she's almost 18. Lori tells the dead Rasputin to give her regards to the netherworld, pulling out the sword. Okay, that is overkill on Rasputin's death, but I think it's a little more fair, since Rasputin and Lori were fighting with swords. Anastasia finally breaks down crying with Lori comforting her. The chapter describes that the Romanov family, or dynasty, and Russia have been avenged, which the former caused most of the problems themselves, but I'm nitpicking at this point. Anyway, Anastasia cries that she has no place to go, except she does, which is her grandma's. But no, Lori offers to let Anastasia stay at the Loud House, with Anastasia saying, You do that for me? Lori says it is the least she can do, and Anastasia becomes grateful. Anastasia packs some of her things. Did they go back to the palace or something? Okay, I'm asking too many questions. And then a dimensional wormhole appears. Lori and Anastasia go through it, ending the exercise. Lori reveals everything to friends and family, and Anastasia now lives in Lori's room, along with having everything from her Russian heritage. This ends the chapter. In JD's notes, he gets how the Soviet Union came to be wrong and claims to love Russian food and history. Also, he said he wanted to do a tribute to the 1997 Anastasia film, which is not a tribute. It's just not. My final thoughts on this chapter. This chapter is not only historically inaccurate, it tries to pass itself off as a tribute to the 1997 film Anastasia. JD did that very poorly and basically ruined 2/3 of the film. First off, why did Lori need a gun when she has superpowers? That is unnecessary and messed up, okay? Even though I praised the fairness of the fight earlier. Anastasia as a child also did not need to be involved in Rasputin's demise. Yes, he was responsible for the family being imprisoned in the movie, but I understand getting revenge. Revenge is a natural part of human nature. We want to do what's right at the moment. I think this wouldn't have been bad if Lori and Anastasia were both adults. Another thing is that Anastasia has been taken from her grandma, the only one still alive in that time period, to my knowledge. In the movie anyway. Why not drop her off with her grandma before killing Rasputin? It would have been easier and less trauma involved. But no, James didn't even think of that. Instead, I know that Anastasia will never see her grandma ever again from that time period, or meet a potential future boyfriend. Also, wouldn't taking her to the present screw things up dramatically for people? It would just screw things up, wouldn't it? This chapter is a recap of the first Rescuers film, to my knowledge, but this one is stupid and pointless, so I'm going to summarize this quickly, and I never watched the first Rescuers film at all, so I'm just going to summarize it real nice and quick. Linka and Lincoln go into the simulator and encounter the Rescuers' characters, including the two mice. Two humans helping mice detectives. Yeah, okay, that could be believable for a cartoon. They fly down to Louisiana with the mice on their backs. Lincoln and Linka arrive at Devil's Bayou and find Penny after Madame Medusa loses her. The two Lightning siblings convince Penny to go with them, even though she might still be scared and in a very traumatic situation. But she goes with them anyway. Later in the cave, the three of them, along with the mice and the bug companion, find the Devil's Eye Diamond. Lincoln then says, "Jumping cane of lightning! It's the Devil's Eye!" Kid, you're not 1960s Robin, okay? We gotta chill down a bit. Outside the simulator, Lola acts too reasonable with the diamond, saying the family would be the target of numerous thieves. Reasonable. JD recognizes a skeleton in the cave and tells Lincoln and Linka telepathically to remove the skeleton, along with teleporting a body bag and gloves. They do so after putting the gloves on, and the body bag is teleported back to Lisa, who discovers it to belong to some old pirate. She's 4 years old, she ain't qualified for that, but she is the scientist of the family, so I'm gonna give it a little bit of leeway here. Afterwards, Lincoln and Linka plan an attack on Madame Medusa and her henchmen with the other rescuer characters, while giving Penny a laser gun. To defend herself, I guess? That's a little reasonable, I guess? They do so and then escape while the police arrive arresting the bad guys. The police solve the case of Penny going missing, and the reader discovers that the exercise was real. So the simulator just teleports you to anywhere in the Loud House universe now. Okay. Penny gets adopted into the Loud family, and Madame Medusa and her henchmen go to jail for eternity, while also ordered to pay $10 million in restitution. The mice detectives now live in JD's mansion and can go to New York through a special tunnel system quickly. Ending the chapter. That's basically it. JD ruins the Rescuers for people that like that film. I know it's a classic, but I just never watched it. Maybe I should watch it. Chapter 51, The Treachrous Cold, revolves around the movie Balto, which is again loosely based on historical events. So, let's explain the history. During an epidemic in 1925, Nome, Alaska was in deep shit. Kids were getting sick left and right, so the mayor put the town under quarantine. The death ephemerma antitoxins could not be reached by sea or airplane, so they had to use sled dogs because of the ice and blizzards. The film Balto rides on the misconception of Balto winning all by himself, or so the internet says. It is already known that Balto did not do it himself because multiple dogs had to be carrying that weight on the sled. J.D. Knudsen hijacked the ruined version and made it even worse somehow. So let's get into this chapter of even more non-historical nonsense. The chapter begins with Lily in the simulator with a fur parka, while JD, Varee, Lana, Lola, Lainey, and Lisa are in the control room. The simulator activates and Lily finds herself in 1925 Western Alaska, specifically Nome. Lily suddenly has a thermometer device on her arm saying it is negative 35 degrees. Lily says that's cold and walks around Nome, seeing no one is on the streets. She sees the local hospital and goes in, seeing a lot of children sick and near the verge of death. Lily then says this: "Oh man, I'm in the 1925 diphtheria epidemic. Good thing I've had a diphtheria shot. 1. Rude. 2. I guess my beaming theory is correct." JD does beam shit into people's heads without their consent. Anyway, Lily goes back outside, seeing the famous wolf dog, Balto. She sees Balto calling out his name, who responds with not a bark, but yeah. Lily introduces herself to Balto and says that she wants to help the sick children. Balto tells Lily he had a feeling about that and tells her to follow him. Balto was a normal dog that didn't talk, but I guess for the movie it makes sense. I think it explains that Lily can talk to animals, this chapter at least, so yeah. The chapter tells the story of what happened to a degree and gets some of it right. Lily and Balto make it to the lost sled dog team at the bottom of a hill, after Balto sniffs their scent. Lily and Balto slide down the hill and the dogs see them. 2 of the dogs are surprised to see Balto, but another one asks about who Lily is. Balto ignores that question and asks if anyone is hurt. One of the dogs says that the musher hit his head and won't get up, with another dog saying that he's not moving. Wow, dark very fast. Lily says that she and Balto are here to help. Balto asks about a guy named Steele, with one dog saying that he abandoned them, and another one saying Steele is a traitor. Balto commands for the sled dog team to load up, and for Lily to be musher. Lily says that she'll try, and Balto along with 2 other dogs load the musher onto the sled. Lily checks for a pulse on the musher, who turns out to be alive. Lily gives Balto a motivational speech about being part wolf, and Balto realizes that Lily is right. Lily then says mush, and off the sled dogs and her go. Somehow she has the ability because, why? At least have her struggle at first, because struggling means that you didn't get it the first try. Okay, I prefer that. They mush and mush, passing through and over obstacles, like an ice bridge and an ice cave. Eventually though, icicles do fall from the ice cave, but Lily swats them away with her water powers. Back in Nome, people worry about not getting the medicine until Balto starts howling. Balto, Lily, and the sled dogs make it into town with the medicine as everyone cheers and park in front of the local hospital. Head doctor comes out thanking Lily but asks for her name. Lily introduces herself to the doctor and he says that Balto and the sled dogs have saved the town. 20 minutes later, after the shots are administered, Rosie, one of the victims of the epidemic, thanks Lily and Balto for saving her. White House, the president at the time, Calvin Coolidge, awarded Lily and Balto the Congressional Gold Medal for their heroic deeds. Before the mandatory dimensional vortex comes, Lily purchases a local newspaper. She then leaps through the vortex, ending the exercise. Rita and Lynn Sr. are told of this at dinner and are proud of Lily. Honestly, I would be proud of her, but I would tell her next time not to get involved in history because that could have disastrous consequences. JD gives Lily a hot cocoa and puts 2 blankets on her to be nice, I guess, with Lily telling him thank you. JD says it is no problem, with the chapter saying that Lily was shivering and cold and a true hero. The chapter then ends. What did I think of this chapter? This chapter got a lot of things wrong, but that is partially due to the Balto film itself, so I'm not mad. I'm relieved that it wasn't as serious as a revolution happening. At least no one wasn't destroyed at the end of the chapter, unlike some other chapters in this story. Chapter 52, or Power of the Earth, revolves around Journey to the Center of the Earth, specifically both the 1999 TV series and the 2008 film version. A fusion, if you will. I have heard of this film and watched the 2008 version a little bit, but became disinterested in it because it was just boring. If you don't know about the plot of said film, people go to the center of the earth to find life at, well, the center. This may not be interesting source material to me, but I'll drag myself through this chapter. So let's begin. The chapter begins with Tara and Lynn Jr. in the simulator while JD, Varee, Starfire, Raven, Lainey, Krista, Lana, Lola, and Lisa are in the control room. Why is Tara here? There's no reason for her being here except for backup, I guess. The simulator activates, and Tara and Lynn Jr. find themselves in a cave. The chapter describes the cave going on for miles, and the two Earth superpowered beings trekking until they reach an enormous air pocket with lots of life and more. Tara and Lynn Jr. are awestruck by this. Lynn Jr. then says that they're in Journey to the Center of the Earth, one of her favorite stories. Yeah, not likely though. And Tara says the same thing as Lynn Jr. Tara and Lynn Jr. explore the pocket, seeing lots of wonders like plants, birds, and prehistoric life. Lynn Jr. asks Tara if she's seen a place like it, and Tara says she hasn't, but has heard of places like it throughout stories. Tara and Lynn Jr. continue to explore, eventually seeing a vast ocean. Lynn Jr. asks Tara if they both want to cross it, and Tara says that they shall. They use their earth powers to lift big rocks up to make them float across the ocean. Similar to the Hell chapter, blue glowing birds end up on Tara's and Lynn Jr.'s shoulders as the two Earth superpower beings get to the other side of the ocean in 20 minutes. Okay, that's possible, but I don't believe it. When they get there though, Tara and Lynn Jr. see mysterious blue plants on the side of the cliff. Lynn Jr. then spots a girl with red hair looking at them curiously from the cliff. Lynn Jr. then tells Tara that she sees someone up there, with Tara saying she sees the same. They climb the cliff, seeing the red-haired girl heading into a blue plant forest, with the chapter saying that this is nothing like Tara or Lynn Jr. seeing before. Tara and Lynn Jr. say the same thing, but Tara adds to see if they can find the red-haired girl. Lynn Jr. agrees and to stay close because of having a feeling about the forest being dangerous. Tara agrees right back, and along with Lynn Jr. go deep into the blue jungle/forest, keeping their senses on alert. Unknown to them, however, something is watching them with infrared vision like a predator from the Predator movies. Tara and Lynn Jr. follow the forest/jungle deeper and deeper until reaching a small village. Tara concludes that the village is where the girl is from, and Lynn Jr. says, think they're friendly? Probably not. Depends on the people. Tara says that they'll have to find out as she and Lynn Jr. go into the village. They are immediately approached by the village's warriors, and Tara tries to de-escalate. However, the chief of the village comes out and says to Tara that she speaks the language of the surface. Tara says yes, and the chief asks her and Lynn Jr.'s names. Tara and Lynn Jr. introduce themselves, and the chief says that Lana, the red-haired girl, saw them on floating rocks. Tara immediately tells him they have earth powers and to watch. Tara and Lynn Jr. demonstrate their powers by lifting up and throwing some rocks. Fortunately, one of them hits a reptilian man tumbling down a hill. Tara calls the reptilian man ugly, with the chief saying that was one of the sauroids. Lynn Jr. is confused about this, which he should know by the way. The chief goes into detail about how they are evolved life forms with the ability to see the fire from the villagers' bodies or heat. Terra points out the obvious, and the chief explains that the Sauroids in his tribe have been at war for centuries. Lin Jr. comments that is a long time, with the chief agreeing. The Sauroid wakes up suddenly, and Terra and Lin Jr. attack the creature by kicking and then petrifying it into stone with yellow beams. Where did that even come from? Was that part of the Earth powers that JD forgot to mention? Oh my god. Lin Jr. and Terra are surprised by this, and the chief calls them extremely powerful. The chapter then describes the feast being celebrated in Terra and Lin Jr.'s honor only 20 minutes later, with stereotypical tribal singing, dancing, and more. God, I'm already getting Sonic U flashbacks already from the stupid prophecy thing. Terra asks how the villagers came to live at the center of the earth, and the chief explains that 500 years ago, they fled there because of the Spanish conquistadors or whatever and conquest. They are what is left of the Mayans, the Aztecs, and Incas of Central and South America. How the fuck do they know that? Wait a minute, they would know about it. What am I talking about? Lin Jr. asks if the tribes fled out of fear, but the chief says they didn't because they did everything they could. That's bullshit. They fled out of fear and not wanting to be sold into slavery. Lin Jr. tells the chief it sounds like the villagers have been around for a long time, and the chief says thanks to the blue plant's special properties, they are immortal, thus living around for 500 years. Immortality through blue plants? Give me some of that weed, please. Yeah, give me some of that weed. Well, I got the blue weed. It doesn't look like weed that much, but I guess. Oh god, that does not fucking taste good. Well, that was a bust. That blue weed was nothing. It just made me sick. That's the last time I trust a fanfic for anything. I shouldn't even trust a fanfic. That information was probably wrong anyway. Terra and Lin Jr. are amazed at the discovery of the blue plant immortality, with the chief saying that it is amazing. Terra asks if there are other people besides her and Lin Jr. that have been here, with the chief telling her a girl explorer arrived before the both of them did. He then points to a pyramid in the distance, and Terra and Lin Jr. levitate two rocks getting on. They see the pyramid, with Terra asking if he was pointing at the pyramid. Obviously, yes. Oh god, it's obvious. The chief tells them yes, and adds that the pyramid is in Sauroid territory. Terra says to Lin Jr. that they both have to see the pyramid, with her agreeing. Terra tells the chief that her and Lin Jr. are going off to see the pyramid, and the chief tells them to be careful. When Terra and Lin Jr. reach the pyramid, they see incredible hieroglyphics and statues. Terra points out the hieroglyphics tell a story, and Lin Jr. asks Terra about what they might say. Terra says she's no archaeologist, but she'll try. This is what the hieroglyphics basically say. The Sauroids are the descendants of the dinosaurs that survived the asteroid 65 million years ago. Lin Jr. and Terra come to the conclusion that somehow the villagers and the Sauroids are somehow connected. Lin Jr. then spots another hieroglyphic, telling Terra to read it. Terra does so, and the hieroglyphics say that the Sauroids dug up the asteroid, finding a mysterious crystal inside. This mysterious crystal contains a powerful energy, making the Sauroids immortal and invincible. Asteroid giving immortality. Okay, it's not the first time I've heard of something weird. As a result, the Sauroids built the pyramid to protect it, with the statue housing said crystal having booby traps. Lin Jr. says the ways of immortality the Sauroids and the villagers have, with Terra saying it is strange. The two Earth superpowered heroines continue exploring the pyramid, eventually entering the main room where the crystal is, revealing it to be red. They then see a huge statue with the mysterious crystal in its claws. Lin Jr. and Tara comment on how big the crystal is, and then Lin Jr. asks Tara what she thinks it is. It's obviously the crystal from the hieroglyphics, man. Hell, even Tara says the same thing. Man, this fanfic is awful. Then Lin Jr. comments on how beautiful the crystal is, with Tara agreeing. The red crystal glows and fires two beams at Lin Jr. and Tara respectively, who get a power boost, causing them to fall down. This leads to Tara suddenly sprouting angel wings. What? Again? I swear that JD Nutson has an obsession with these things. You don't need angel wings for every single fucking power in the visual. Hell, I would prefer that their eyes fucking change color permanently. At least that would make sense. Anyway, the red beams die down, and Lin Jr. and Tara get up, with the latter asking what happened. Lin Jr. says that she doesn't know, and sees Tara's wings. She tells Tara she has wings, with Tara seeing them, and Tara saying she does. They then hear a voice calling out for help, and Tara and Lin Jr. go to the source in another room, with sand waterfalls while flying. When Tara and Lin Jr. get into the room, they see a blonde-haired girl sinking in quicksand. They quickly save her and carry her back to the statue. Tara asks if the blonde-haired girl's alright, and the blonde-haired girl says that she is. Lin Jr. realizes that the blonde-haired girl must be the explorer she and Tara heard about, saying so. The blonde-haired girl says it is true and introduces herself as Gabrielle, adding she doesn't have a last name because of being an orphan. Tara and Lin Jr. introduce themselves, with Tara asking Gabrielle how she lost her parents. Tara adds that she apologizes if it is too painful to talk about. Gabrielle just met you two. It is really inappropriate to ask her that. But no, instead she tells the two people she just met that her parents died in a fire. Tara says that's terrible and explains that she's the lone survivor of a genocide. I'm sorry, that is just fucking worse. Genocide is way worse than burning to death. It just is worse. Gabrielle tells Tara she is sorry to hear that, but Tara says it is okay because she has friends that call her family. Gabrielle is happy for Tara, saying that's good news. Lin Jr. asks Gabrielle what she's doing in the pyramid, and Gabrielle tells her that she was looking for the red crystal, pointing to the mysterious crystal. Tara explains it is the Juvenile Heart, part of the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs off 65 million years ago. Lin Jr. adds that the Sauroids found and kept it in the pyramid. Gabrielle tells Lin Jr. and Tara that's incredible, and the two explain what happened to them concerning the crystal. Gabrielle tells the two Earth-powered superheroines that she didn't know the crystal could do that, with Lin Jr. agreeing. The crystal fires another beam, hitting Gabrielle, giving her angel wings. Another one in the same chapter. God, not everybody needs them! Okay, they're not necessary, man. They're not necessary. Anyway, Gabrielle sees the wings after Tara points them out, with Gabrielle saying that she does. The Sauroids come in with their leader, who says that the Free have tainted the pyramid, with Tara saying it is not true. Their leader, King Sauroid, tells his people to kill the Free. The Sauroids charge, but most of them die due to extreme heat from the lava Lin Jr. summons. Gabrielle flies into the air, zapping the Sauroid leader with electricity, making him run away. Tara says the obvious to Gabrielle, with Gabrielle saying so. The three superpowered girls leave the pyramid, going back to the village. They reveal everything to the villagers, with the chief saying it is hard to imagine, but is glad that all three of them are safe. You and your subjects have been living on blue immortality weed. Moving on. Tara tells the chief the three of them have to go back home, and the chief understands, telling them safe travels and that maybe one day they'll meet again. Lin Jr. says to the chief that she has a feeling they will meet once again. The three superpowered girls leave for the surface, and once they do get back to the surface, a dimensional vortex appears, letting them go in. The exercise in the simulator is then completed, and Gabrielle is adopted into the ever-growing Nuts and Loud family, ending the chapter. JD's notes are not that special, but in JD's notes he speaks about how the Journey to the Center of the Earth is one of his dad's favorite movies from when he was a kid. Now, what do I think about this chapter? This chapter was very, very boring except for the soloids, the villagers, and both of their origin stories. I liked how the origin stories were very sci-fi and took elements from real history or prehistory and mashed them together. However, the chapter still sucked because of the 1-second fights in it and also because of the angel wings. It made Journey to the Center of the Earth even more boring, which I thought was impossible, but here we are. Honestly, I prefer the JD Going to Hell chapter because it gave me something to look forward to. At least I knew I wasn't bored the whole time. And the blue weed didn't even get me immortality. It just made me ill. How disappointing. Chapter 53 is the penultimate chapter of the Simulator Saga and revolves around a Land Before Time fanfic called The Land Before Time Retold, where Elaine, a human, meets the Land Before Time characters. The author of that fanfic is Elise Lowing, a friend of JD's, if you look on his fanfic page. JD put this fanfic into his own fanfic for some weird reason, and it's just not even worth it at the end. It's not even worth it. I'm not going to summarize this whole chapter because it is way too long. Instead, I will use points from a sheet of paper, and I'll have to make this quick because of timelines, or deadlines rather. Elaine is obviously an OC, as you can already tell, specifically Elise Lowing's character. Sharktooth remains elusive in this chapter and mysterious. Apparently, Elaine has a time stone of some kind, and it isn't from Marvel or Sonic, so we're good. She unlocks her inner Babylonian at some point by using a slingshot or a bow and arrow to distract Sharktooth. Littlefoot's mother is still alive somehow instead of dying. At the end of the chapter, it is revealed that Adeline and her whole family moved to Royal Woods along with Adeline's grandma, having used to travel to the Land Before Time when she was young. She didn't tell anyone because I guess she would have been labeled as insane or not even believed. This chapter still sucks because JD takes a Land Before Time fanfic and puts it in his own fanfic. That is lazy. Very lazy. And I guess he did ask permission to do that, but unfortunately this fanfic became so infamous that it reached Sonnet Chew levels of terrible. I mean, my god, if I were the author of the Land Before Time fanfic, I would have asked for this chapter to be taken out because I believe it is disrespectful to the original fanfic. Chapter 54, the final chapter of the Simulator Saga, revolves around Poltergeist 3, another horror franchise. This time, Lucy has the chance to shine in this saga, and she does fit it. I guess the chapter is Goth Girl versus supernatural entity/villain. So let's get into it. The chapter begins with Lucy in the simulator while JD, Marie, the Loud parents, Lainey, Krista, Adeline, Starfire, Raven, Salius, Lucy's love interest, and Lisa are in the control room. The simulator activates and Lucy finds herself in a parking garage. She walks around and then hears someone screaming. Lucy turns the corner, seeing a girl being pulled into a puddle. Lucy realizes she is in Poltergeist 3 while saying it is wicked. She then realizes the girl is Carol Ann Freeling, who screams for help. Lucy tells her to hang on, spreading her black angel wings and flying to help. She grabs Carol Ann's hand, pulling her out of the puddle. Lucy then tells Carol Ann to hang on to her and to not let go. Carol Ann does what she's told, not getting immediately suspicious because of the supernatural shit she's been through. Lucy fires black lightning at the puddle and out comes the spirit of Henry Kane, an insane priest and leader of a 19th century satanic utopia cult which wants to destroy the world. Lucy calls Henry Kane out by name, who questions how she got his name. She responds by saying she has her sources. Henry Kane tries to tell Carol Ann to not be afraid and lead his cult into the light, but Carol Ann says he only wants her to be used for evil. Kane tries to manipulate Carol Ann some more, but Lucy tells him to back off. She pushes her bangs back, revealing red demon eyes. Lucy then says this, "You want to get to Carol Ann? You gotta go through me." Okay, this was way before her eyes were actually revealed, so I'll give it a pass. Anyway, JD is surprised at this revelation, along with Lainey, her own sister. Lainey has lived in the house for years and should know what her sister's eyes look like. Silas says that Lucy's eyes are beautiful, and the parents were so terrified of Lucy's demon eyes that they forced her to grow her bangs out. I understand being terrified of your kid's features, but forcing Lucy to grow her bangs out sounds like both of the Loud parents need therapy themselves. JD then says that the demon eyes are not that bad and says that Lucy can scare the most out of evil people, with Free and Adeline agreeing. Adeline adds that she thinks that Lucy's gifted in all things dark. Yeah, we guessed that already. Lori says something about JD and Marie caring for all of them since they live at JD's mansion. Lainey tells everyone in the control room that she doesn't care if Lucy has demon eyes that are red, adding that they're perfect for her. Silas agrees with Lainey on what she said. Starfire asks Raven if Lucy is talented in the dark arts, and Raven tells Starfire that Lucy has a lot of powers that make her special. Adeline, JD, and Faree agree with Raven on that. Back in the simulation, Lucy is ready to face Kane. She rambles on to Kane about never being forgiven for his crimes and that he'll pay for it. Kane does the typical spiel of her not being afraid, with Lucy saying that he should be. She then fires a black fireball at Kane, hitting him somehow in the leg, even though he's a ghost. Hell, even Ghostbusters didn't do something stupid as this. The leg burns off, leaving Kane screaming in pain. Kane reasonably asks how it's possible, and Lucy tells him her powers can kill a spirit. As a result, he growls, regrows his leg, and vanishes. Lucy fortunately has the ability to see demons with her eyes and stops Kane from grabbing Carol Ann. She tells him nice try, and this makes Kane confused because no human can grab a spirit. Lucy says to Kane that she guesses that she's special, and God loves her very much. Lucy throws Kane into the wall behind the puddle, firing black lightning at him, electrocuting him. Kane finally has enough, getting up and transforms into his true form. Lucy then says this, "You're really a monster, Kane." I'm pretty sure that was quite obvious, Lucy. Kane roars and Lucy fires a black fireball at him, blowing his head off. She then tells Kane he's going back where he belongs and fires a blast of black fire at him, blasting him apart. Carol Ann puts her hands on Lucy's shoulders, concentrating. This makes Lucy even more powerful, and Lucy is way too overpowered here. At least make Kane fight back a little bit so it's not a 1-second fight. I guess 4 of Carol Ann's family members arrive to help Carol Ann and don't ask about the little girl currently defeating their enemy. Lucy tells them and Carol Ann to join their hands to channel their power to her, saying that the fate of the world depends on it. One relative named Tangana says that Lucy is right. The 4 family members of Carol Ann plus Carol Ann put their hands on Carol Ann's shoulders, concentrating and also making Lucy even more powerful. This sudden power increase destroys Kane forever, with Lucy getting the last word. Lucy then turns to everyone else and smiles. For some weird reason, Carol Ann hugs Lucy and not her family members because of a bullshit plot. Lucy comforts her as Carol Ann and her family are safe from Kane's torment forever. In Carol Ann's room, Carol Ann reveals the truth to Lucy while also explaining the first 2 movies. The family members explain in more detail what happened, not before Lucy introduces herself, finally, and explains her abilities to the 4. However, the grandma shows up, thanking Lucy for saving the world and the afterlife. The grandma tells the family to watch over each other and leaves. Back in the control room, the people inside talk about how Henry Kane was a monster. Lucy goes back home through a dimensional wormhole, ending the exercise. The simulator now runs at maximum power, now meaning more simulator adventures, ending the chapter. In JD's notes, he says that he worked really hard on the Simulator Saga, which isn't true at all, because most, if not all of it was slop. What did I think about this chapter? This final chapter in the Simulator Saga was very boring and uninteresting. Most of the Simulator Saga disrespected the franchises it was supposed to build up and make them look more like parodies of themselves. Even the Loud House and canon wouldn't go this unbelievably ridiculous. No wonder Mojo lost his shit halfway through this saga. Anyway, where is Mojo? If it isn't the man who mocked me. Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me.